Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Board of Director Candidate Interviews. I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, and I've again partnered up with the PDGA to give you the best insights and hopefully some great answers from our board candidates. And today, joining us, we've got Tim Petrea. Tim, I've got some softball questions to lob up, and then we're going to drill down a little bit. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, they're all softballs. Let's start with one of my favorites, which is just the simple. How long have you been playing disc golf, and how long have you been a PDGA member?
Well, you could probably say even as a kid, I played disc golf because I played the object golf with the old 175 gram as a kid, and we made up courses in our backyard if we went camping somewhere. But playing disc golf in the late 90s, early 2000s, in there, some guy came through town with a bunch of baskets on the back of his truck and everything, and he set up a temporary course way down in South Georgia, and I got hooked. So the first real course I played was in the early 2000s at Cloudland Canyon State Park, up on the edge of Georgia, right up, just outside of Tennessee, and I was hooked from there. I went from the one disc wonder to now I have about 400 or 500, just like every other disc golfer that's out there.
Certainly hooked. I have to side note quickly. Was that Greg Hosfeld that came through town by chance with a?
I'll be honest with you. I can't even remember the guy's name. I know that he had a Michigan accent, and he was just popping through town, but I've never seen him since.
Okay. Well, so then to follow those up real quick, do you remember the year that you signed up for the PDGA then?
I want to say it was 2003, 2004, somewhere around then, but honestly, I can't remember the actual, the beginning year.
And you're in the 34,000s. That's where your PDGA number sits, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then what do you feel like drove you to the sport? You said you were, maybe inventing games and playing as a kid, but what drove you to the sport? Anything specific?
Well, I work in the field of recreation. So games that can keep me active, it's extremely important for me. And I played softball for years at shortstop, third base. So I was used to a flick type throw in a sense, throwing it over there. So as soon as I started playing the game, I said, this is a fun game. It kind of, the thing I like about it, it requires you to have some physical ability, but then it makes you think a little bit, and it can get you away from the stress of the regular world as long as you don't get too crazily competitive. But that's what drove me to the game. And then add that to the fact that I've been a hiker. I love getting outdoors. It combines the aesthetics of being in the outdoors with an athletic competition. It's a no-brainer.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, before you said hiking, it sounded like you just like to throw things, but it sounds like you are combining a couple passions. Well, the first question that we've got here for you is that one of the two main elements to the PDGA mission is to develop disc golf into a globally recognized competitive sport and recreational activity. What does that mean to you, and how would you contribute as a board member to that objective?
Well, the first thing is I know we've come a long way with being able to get disc golf to the networks that are out there, and being able to do the disc golf network, that's amazing. I think we're almost ready to go that next step, because I'm watching ESPN the other day and I see knife throwing and axe throwing, and they are giving it live coverage. I'm like, what's the difference? Why can't we be able to do disc golf? And I think with the coverage that we're receiving now through Disc Golf Network, we're ready. I think the technology is there. So from that standpoint, I think that's what that means to me. From there, to make it more noticeable for some of the juniors that are out there, some of the families that are out there, those that want to go to that competitive level, because I think we've had great pros in the past. The Ken Climos, the Kevin McCoys of the past, all those great guys were fantastic. Now, these younger arms are throwing at a country mile. I think I've heard you guys talk about, 800 feet on some of these throws, and that's amazing. I'll never be able to do that. But for the younger generation to be able to see these guys and the way they compete and the way they throw, but also the way that they pull for each other. That is extremely encouraging. I think the sportsmanship that you see in a lot of these athletes that are out there today on the men's side and the women's side, it's extremely encouraging to see how they compete with one another. And that's something I think is a model for a lot of the other sports that are out there. And me working in recreation, being able to grow a sport and teach sportsmanship at the same time, disc golf is a model that I want to be able to take to other recreation departments. And with my connection around the nation, that will help.
Okay, well, and then the other element of the PDGA mission is to sustain the growth of the organization, our membership, and just the sport in general. Is the same thing. How do you take what you know and how do you apply that? How do you help the board towards those objectives?
Probably one of the most difficult things in sustaining the growth lately, especially with COVID, the manufacturers can't keep up. Mm-hmm. That's been a tough thing. So I think reinventing how tournament directors do players packs. It used to be everybody wanted to get a disc, a certain type of disc, things like that. I think we may be getting beyond that a little bit. So, do coupons where they can do their own shopping and, make the coupon have, and I think some of the companies are already doing that, make the coupon have a longer shelf life so that way they can shop when a certain disc becomes available and they can use that, make that part of the players packs, or even get more inventive with some of the players packs and find some other swag that people like, because the amateurs love receiving swag. And as long as we can get more creative with some of the tournaments and things like that, that will help sustain the tournaments, but also, train more tournament directors. Get more creative with some of the events that we can do. When I was out in Wyoming, one of the things we started doing, because we didn't have a chance to go to a lot of tournaments where I was living, because we were everywhere in Wyoming is a 2.5 hour drive. No matter where you're going, it's at least a 2.5 hour drive. And that was very difficult. So we wanted to be able to create more opportunities to play. So rather than just tournaments, we started match play events. Then we started some other bracketed type events that got people out, encouraging the clubs to create more activities. There's a lot of clubs around the nation that are doing some great things to where they've got weekly activity and they post that on their websites, and then they're posting it there. So getting the PDGA to communicate with the clubs that are having difficulty and showing them models at how they can grow. I'm probably one of the biggest models I can think of in the nation is the Western North Carolina Disc Golf Club and the Hub City over around Spartanburg. They're doing fantastic things to get new members engaged, even though events are filling up very quickly.
Okay, well, you're almost jumping ahead to what will be the next question, and I love all of that. But the 2023 PDGA strategic plan includes, we'll say, 6 different main key points, and I'm going to read them off, and I'll even repeat them for you because I know it's a lot to take in. But there's 6 main points, and we're kind of asking you to prioritize your top 1 or 2 of those main points to elaborate a little bit more. So I'm going to read them for you, and they include youth and education, increased support for local clubs, enhancing PDGA leagues, membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and then marketing and media. And those are the 6 main key points or bullet points of the strategic plan. I'm going to read those back real quick, but I want you to think about your top 1 or 2 in terms of how you would prioritize those, because obviously all 6 of those are on the table. The top 1 or 2 is what I'm looking for. So again, youth and education, increased support for local clubs, enhancing PDGA leagues, the membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and media and marketing. So of those 6, what 1 or 2 of those jump off the page as top priorities that you feel like you'd like to attack and are most important?
I think for me, the strength that I have coming from the Parks and Recreation world as an administrator, youth and education. and
Okay.
then strengthening the support for the local clubs.
Okay.
I hope I said that correctly the way it was
You,
said.
yeah,
But
you did. Yeah, because and I feel like your last question, and I want you to elaborate a little bit more. But yeah, your last answer actually was kind of leaning in this direction anyway. So yes, enhancing PDGA leagues. I'm sorry. Increased support for local clubs and youth and education. Those seem like the two that you're most um, dialed in on. Why do you feel those are the most important?
well, in my world, I've been able to run summer camp programs in the work that I do. I've been able to take families and young people on all kinds of activities. I've been blessed to be able to do that and call that work. And to be able to do disc golf events and things like that. So a passion for me is getting our young people outdoors, and getting them out there and getting them active in nature. Probably one of my favorite programs that goes on around the nation. It actually, started in the Blue Ridge Parkway area, but the Blue Ridge Parkway Kids in Park program that Jason Urose does. He introduces disc golf as a track trail, and they make the signs that you have a pro tip, you have some kind of information about the aesthetics, whether it's the trees, the plant life, or something like that, something interesting or something historical, and then something about how to throw a certain shot, or how to score something. It's all on there. But what they do at the end of their round, they're able to record that round, and that they did it. And after a certain amount of rounds, the Kids in Park program will give them a reward for so many rounds. They also do this with hiking trails, but it's awesome that they've included disc golf, and pediatricians are, believe it or not, writing prescriptions for them to get outdoors and do stuff like this. So, I'm not going to say that I came up with this idea. Jason and them came up with this idea, and they're doing a fantastic job. And one of the things I want to do is let more people know about that, because that gets everything that we want to do. It gets kids out there playing disc golf. It gets them educated, and they stay engaged while they're doing it. Because, there's some proven facts about kids in education. Even just because they let out for the summer doesn't mean they need to stop being engaged. So when I ran summer camp programs, we would keep them engaged in all kinds of environmental education programs and things like that, even with disc golf and other things. So keeping them engaged was extremely important to me as a recreator. And I think, there's so many more ideas even with the educational disc golf program that they do, that we can work together to even make some stronger programs. But my goal would be to work with the National Recreation and Parks Association and help us strengthen our work with parks, with the education programs, and getting kids out more, and how we can do that, and say, hey, disc golf is an option, and PDGA wants to partner with you. Then the other thing, and it comes right into it, it's educating the local clubs on the PDGA's mission, because there's a lot of clubs that have started up, and some of them are doing a fantastic job, but some of them are struggling with going through the steps. Go a step further than what we're doing now, and PDGA is already doing a fantastic job with it. But take some time to reach out to clubs. And I, as a board member, I've already done that. I've already moved to a community now in Georgia that we're gonna start working to build that club, but strengthen the relationship with those clubs, with the PDGA, but even more importantly, with the Parks and Recreation departments. Because one of the problems, and a lot of you folks have seen it, is you have the club over here, then on the other side, you have the Parks and Rec department. And sometimes it's, those Parks and Rec workers, or it's, those disc golfers. Well, the one thing that I've been able to do over time, and I've seen other clubs doing it, is bridge the gap. I say that, and I think I mentioned it some in my conversation last year, but one of the parks that I built up above the Athens area of Georgia, I helped build the park. I helped design it. We set up signage. We couldn't do concrete tee pads right off the bat. But while we were building it, some of my coworkers said, what's disc golf? Those disc golfers, things like that. Well, turns out we taught them a little bit about the sport, and some of those guys even started playing. Now they've built another core. They're process of building another full 18 that's going to be championship level with T-pads right off the bat. But even more important than that, the club had a great relationship, because one of the guys that walked with me that day ended up becoming a great disc golfer, and he became an Innov ambassador just like me, and then did some great things for that club and helped it to be one of the leaders here in Georgia. He passed away last year, way too early in his life, but he helped set some things up to where, as a club, you've got to have a good relationship with your local rec department.
Yeah, and you've essentially answered then what would have been the next question of what skills and experiences do you bring to help further strengthening those relationships, and you just perfectly summarized all of that, so that makes sense. So then we're going to switch gears slightly, where it talks about how the professional scene is growing and it's attracting eyeballs, but the vast majority of our members are actually amateurs. What do you think the organization's balance between the two should be? Knowing, we see this focus. You talk about Disc Golf Network and other ways that we're really pumping up the professional side, but most of our players are in fact registered as amateurs. Where do you feel the balance should be for the organization?
I think there's merit to supporting both. It's encouraging tournament directors to make sure that you cater to the pros, because you want to get some of those pros at some of these events, but don't forget about the amateurs. And don't forget, I think, the history has shown that some of the better tournament directors that are out there and some of the better ones that continue year after year are the ones that have a good balance between making it a great event for the pros, but also make it a great event for the amateurs, especially the brand new amateurs. The guys in my division, MA50, we get a players pack, we get another disc. We're like, oh yeah, another disc. And if you can see on the wall behind me, I've got a few back there, and that's what they become, wall hangers. Some of them we like to throw and test out, but some of them become mementos. But those rec divisions and those intermediate divisions, they want to get that new plastic. They want to be able to get their hands on some of that stuff, or they want to be able to have a positive experience, and we teach those. I think one of the things that we're going to have to do now as a part of the balance, because so many more people are coming, is to be able to find some ways to teach the etiquette that we have loved over the years as part of this sport. So I think we're going to have to start spending some time more on the amateur side of it, so that way it can continue to be a good feeder for our pro program for years to come. So I honestly think it should be almost 50-50, but then, having the staff to be able to reach out to both ends.
Okay.
That answers that question.
Yeah, it does. And I'll be the first to admit, as a longtime member myself, I feel like that is it's a looming question. And I personally can see the struggles and the challenges on every side because of the way the organization just has so many members that are active participants that may not reach that professional level, but we're trying to address everybody. So without trying to answer your question, I understand it's certainly a difficult balance out there. And I would just interject, I think even some of our professionals could use some of that etiquette. But anyway, I'm not going to get into any drama now. We're going to move on to the next question, which is there's evidence such as the current surge of membership and the event growth and staff. There's evidence that we're growing and that we can just stay the course. On the other hand, people are saying, hey, the PDGA needs to change things up. Where do you fall? Do you on that spectrum? Do you feel like we kind of stay the course with what we're doing, or do you look for some bigger, maybe more drastic changes that need to be implemented?
I think there's always room for change. Just because a ship is sailing in the right direction doesn't mean everything's going right, or that there's not room for change. I think there's a lot of great things happening with PDGA and have been for years with the growth. And I have no idea what the budget's like, but with the amazing growth that we've had, it's doing everything we can to be able to continue to sustain the membership. from the earlier ages all the way to the ones that we're getting, to be able to continue to tell them year after year, your membership in the PDGA is the right choice. So finding ways to do that, get more creative. Yes, that's going to be difficult, but the way I operate as a recreation professional, and what is a standard in recreation excellency is around the nation, is sometimes a 3-year programming plan or a 3-year master plan. Looking at that plan, but use your last 2 years almost to be able to evaluate where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, or sometimes look at your past and it can almost dictate where you should go. And then take a lot of surveys. Go deeper than just the surveys after events, because a lot of times what you get after events, you get the people that are happy, and then if somebody had a round where they feel like they should have just DNF'd anyway, they're going to do the complaining. So a great place to get surveys is at some of the recreation conferences around the nation, and even survey people who don't know much about disc golf. But survey a lot of the recreation professionals that are out there. That's just another way, do a sampling of not just disc golfers, but people who may be indirectly affected by disc golf. So that's, but definitely there's room for change, but change not just because you feel like you have to change that's staring you in the face, that's saying, look here, I need to be noticed too. So.
Okay. And again, this one's a little bit more specific, this next question. And it maybe goes along with what you were just saying. It says that your candidate statement leans heavily on your parks experience and calls for a need to increase activation of local clubs and municipalities to grow the sport. What efforts do you think the PDGA should change to accomplish those goals?
I think we need to make a stronger effort to talk with local departments and say, okay, how can we help your department grow? We know you've got a course. What are some things that we can do to help that course see more traffic? Or we know that your course is getting a lot of traffic. What are some things that we can do? And maybe on our resource pages, throw more information out there about proper disc golf signage. Even some of the studies that have happened with, beware disc golfers or something like that. Making sure that our signage is correct, but then helping with some of the marketing. A lot of the departments have had disc golf courses put in, but they have no idea how to market that disc golf course, because somebody came along, decided to put a course in, and there it is. There's not a lot of signage, and I've seen it. I've traveled across the nation, and I've stopped at a course, and I've been like, "Where's hole one?" So working with the Parks Department to educate them, and sometimes even using some of the professional disc golfers, like you're already doing at a lot of the pro tours, where a lot of the pros are doing clinics and things like that. But set it up with, instead of on that particular course, set it up with the local departments. And what would be fantastic is, one of our missions, as well as PDGA, is reach out to underserved populations and have parks within 5 to 10 minute walks from houses. Set up little pocket parks with maybe a disc golf practice basket or something like that, but also do some clinics in some of the underserved areas, but maybe make that part of an educational outreach program that we can do through the PDGA, where the cool thing would be is to be able to utilize people who are part of the various teams throughout the nation, and it be something that we come together on.
Yeah, and I'd like to just follow that up. This is coming from me personally as a course designer myself, and I've worked with lots of park and rec departments. I wish I would run into more people like you that are all ready to go. But do you find that sports and recreational activities, do you find that governing bodies are often reaching out to the departments, or do you usually find it to be the other way, as in you're the recreational director and you're looking for information, so you go Google pickleball or disc golf or whatever? Or do you feel like the pickleball association should be more proactive. And I'm using them at, and maybe substituting the PDGA there. But what is that relationship normally like in terms of an activity versus, we'll say, the growth and development of it?
I've seen it happen both ways, where pickleball has reached out to a department because they want more courts, they want more court availability. So yeah, they're going to the departments and say, look, it's blowing up here. We've got it going on over here in this municipality. We need to get it over here so that way we can have some spillover courts. And I mean, that's a sport that's growing like crazy. But then, and I've seen it from the disc golf world where local disc golfers will come to a department and they will say, hey, we want to get a course. What do we have to do to get a course? My goal is, and PDGA already does it, and all of the manufacturers do it, where they say, this is how you get a course started. But I think PDGA can be more proactive, even setting up, for lack of a better term, PDGA ambassadors who are volunteers. And what they do is they work with the local departments as volunteers to help be a bridge for their course. So, PDGA doesn't have to be just the paid staff. And that's the thing I want to re-emphasize, because I've worked in departments where, you're doing a specific job. They say, well, who are we going to get to do this? They say, that's your job. No, recreation, historically, the strength of it has been its volunteers. And I think with PDGA, the strength of us is going to be our volunteers, and how we help empower those volunteers by helping to educate them more, and even making it more available to their smartphones through apps and teaching them how to do programs like that.
Okay. Well, final question for you is, what do you bring to the table that sets you apart from the other candidates, and why should the members vote for you?
Well, I think with my Parks and Recreation passion and experience, I've been an accredited visitor to go to different parks around the nation to help make sure that they're going by the standards when it comes to setting up parks and things like that. So I've got that connection, not just on a state level, but on a national level. I bring the experience of being a part of clubs, and my nickname, Blind Hog, is I've got a couple of discs on my wall that do that. But my passion for disc golf, but my passion for remaining humble and being a fantastic sport, I want to be able to let other people know about that. The number one rule is to have fun. So that way, when you have a bad shot, it's okay. But I bring those things to the table. But also, as an Air Force veteran, I learned that sometimes hoops have to be jumped through in order to get things happen. So processes are important. But then one of the last things is, I've been a high school football official for almost as long as I've been a disc golfer. And I've been able to do state championships in Georgia and North Carolina. I was able to officiate out in Wyoming while I was out there. I'm going to get back into it here in Georgia. The rules are important, and I understand that. But rules are there for when you need to enforce them. They're not there to just be crazily enforcing them on the course. So educating people on the need for enforcing the rules so the spirit of the game is enjoyed by all. And that's extremely important. So I think all of that, coming together, that's what I bring to the table. And I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Well, Tim, you and I have not met previously or had in-depth conversations, but I got to say thank you so much for opening yourself up, giving us some more insight, answering all the questions provided from the PDGA. I've got to again thank the PDGA for partnering up with the Disc Golf Guy channel so that we could get to learn a little bit more about you and know you a little better. And of course, we wish you the best of luck in the voting process. Again, this is Tim Petrie. This is the 2021 PDGA Board Candidate Interviews. Tim, thanks for joining us. And again, best of luck to you.